Little Ham says it's time to rock and roll.
Bring the noise.
Go.
Good evening and congratulations one and all on the night that Celtic have won the league. Welcome to the E-Tims podcast. My name is Desi Mond and I'm glad to say I'm joined by Champione Hector Bandido. Good evening, Mr. Champione.
Champion feeling, chaps. Champion feeling.
Lovely. And from across the water, that champion from across the water, Monty Champion Burns. Good evening, Monty Champion Burns.
Desi. Feeling champion indeed.
Yeah, champion at the bit to feel champion. So that tonight we drew one each with Dundee United, but I think even from the very start it seemed to be just one of those games. We were all happy with a draw. Let's just get to 90 minutes, and everybody was quite happy. So what an achievement, Hector. It was never in doubt. Let's be honest. No one on this team ever had any doubts. We always knew it would come good in the end. We believed in the process.
It's a remarkable achievement. All the way back to the podcast that sticks in my head throughout the season was the one, I think we just lost the Hearts at Tynecastle. Was that the opening league game of the season? Yeah. Mm-hmm. And we were also struggling in Europe. And he had no players, and he was just brought in, and we all had our doubts because we'd had such a terrible season last season, and the squad had a complete rebuild. I see, being honest with you, it was the heart over the head, and that's what supporters are like, isn't it? All sense and all logic didn't point to us winning the league this season. But between us, call it clutching at straws, right? We all I think we all convinced ourselves, right? If we could get to the New Year break, the winter break, and be within touching distance, I'm sure we all kind of settled upon 6 points. If we get within 6 points, give him a chance to hit the January window. There's so many caveats, wasn't there? If he's backed, if he gets the players in early, which we never do. But we actually did for once this time. I actually think it was Hogmanay. We had the three boys for Japan side in Hogmanay. No doubt there'll be a stewards inquiry in there somewhere, right, before the transfer window. But we did it. We got there. We got that 96th minute winner at Ross County just at the Christmas period to keep us in striking distance. And then we hit the ground running in January. And to go, was it 31 games since September time in the league? Undefeated, was it 28 wins and 3 draws? That in itself is remarkable. And that consistency. So listen, what he's done is I just think it's a phenomenal achievement. He deserves the utmost praise and respect from all of us. We all love him to bits. He's a proper man, a proper manager. Just the way he speaks, the way he holds himself, win, lose or draw. And you know what? I think we can look forward with a lot to look forward to next season. So well done, Ange. Well done.
That's interesting, because I have got in my notes here the future's bright, but we'll come to that at the end. This is hopefully just going to be a short 45 minutes style podcast, just to celebrate tonight, celebrate the team and its achievements. But C for champion Monty C. Burns, I'd like to salute yourself, for you were always the C for culture and buying into the culture change.
I thought it was a C for something else, Desi. No.
I get that too.
Monty, I know you may still be celebrating the recent poll results over in Northern Ireland, so feel free if you want to pass. But you always heralded there need to be a big culture change at Celtic and buy into Ange's plan. And I think we can all see that certainly the way it is now, isn't it?
I think listening to the players as well, they're not fluffing and just saying that they're not just saying it. They obviously did. I think Joe Hart, after the Livy game, said we would need to be nearly perfect from there on in. I think Ange said it too. But that they were all buying in at that point. And it's repeated. And in Ralston's interview there after the game, he talked about it. He talked about the fact that, we never stop, and how that applies to just working hard and buying into the culture and the type of football that he wants. So it's brave, it takes balls. It takes balls to change it, and even going back to the start of the horrors of last year, when it all started unraveling, I remember a particular quote from Lenny that he actually came on. He was on the record. He said the culture needs to change in here. He said I'm the man to do it. He obviously wasn't, but everything goes in cycles. Rogers talked about teams having 2 years or 3 years life. The fact that we've, as Hector pointed out, we backed a manager in 2 transfer windows and gave him what he asked for, but we had no choice. We had to. Like 17 players, was it? 18 players?
17, I think it is at the moment.
17, a huge, unbelievable turnaround. And to Hector's earlier point as well, we'd have probably all been accepting that this year was maybe just one too far. But Jesus, what an achievement! And culturally, we're set now. He's delivered, so he doesn't need to make any excuses about how we go about things.
Can I just add one? Sorry, just even more so. Even more so. I didn't mention it. The fact he did not bring in his own coaches. just if we could just step back, any kind of senior manager, any exec, anyone at that level going into a massive accountability of change, taking over from something that had fallen its arse the previous year, had a rebuild required. He says, you know what? No, I'll work with the existing staff who are getting kicked from pillar to post by all and sundry. And to do that and emphasise his ideas on top of them and get them to buy into it, which he's mentioned several times in recent interviews, that in itself is astonishing. And it's even more credit to what Ange has done this season.
Yeah, what was very interesting was, I don't know if you saw the last interview he did with Sky Sports, not tonight after the game where he was lost for words, but we'll play that later on. But they did one yesterday and it was regards mental health, talking about and what they said, and what would you recommend? He says, make sure you've got a good family and friends base, that's solid, but also make sure you've got a good sounding board, number 2. And I thought, this is coming from a guy who did not bring in a number 2, so obviously he's won over whoever his number 2 is, like John Kennedy, Steve McManus, Gavin Strachan. There might be a combination of either or all of them at some certain points and some certain talk, but I thought that was really interesting about it. So you kind of view him as a kind of man alone, but he's saying always make sure you get somebody to sound it. I think obviously the buck always stops with him, and he's the guy with the master plan who says, no, this is the way it is, and this is the way it will be. And
he said that, Desi, that's what he said a couple of months ago, and he's actually had, he gets that many interviews, but he actually was asked about that, and he said they had to be with him, and he knew pretty quickly if they were going to be on his side or not. And he made it clear, if you're not, then we're going to have to find alternative ways, i.e. you're going to have to go. But he said he never got to that conversation with the coaching staff, because once he demonstrated his plan, what he wanted to do, he says the buy-in was immediate. And there's always a doubt that you're going to get that. You get cliques and you get people, and who's this new guy coming in? He goes, not once did he find that, even through spells of adversity, when that's the obvious thing that happens. Who's this new guy? Doesn't know what he's doing. Get him to fuck. The opposite happens. So kudos as well to Kennedy and Strachan, McManus and the coaching staff, because they were taking a kick, and they're guys that live here. No doubt they were walking down the street and they were getting all sorts of this and that from one or two choice words. So for the fact they bought in and embodied everything Ange wanted, credit to them. But Ange in particular, astonishing.
Yeah,
astonishing. There's also a piece on that, Hector, that they talk about, really strong leaders. Part of getting that buy-in, there's a whole framework, and you could bore you with all the management science bullshit, but you get a coalition of the willing. That's your first thing. Then you create a crisis. And with the crisis and the coalition of the willing, then you have targets. The crisis was already created for him. You had a bunch of guys there with a manager that's been brought in who's been very, very open and said, this is the way we're going to do things. But the third piece of the puzzle in that we talk about is about being vulnerable. That there's a huge strength in a manager in allowing yourself to be vulnerable when taking other people's counsel. So he strikes me as a very, very intelligent man and a very, very good man manager. The counter to it is that obviously Kennedy had a 3-month audition for the gig, but obviously didn't want it. Strachan, McManus, those guys are guys who will take instruction and then follow the instruction to the letter. And that's another style and a culture thing that we talk about, where the hands-off style that we had with Neil Lennon for those guys is a problem. Those people who have that mentality want to be told what to do, what to go and execute.
They need direction.
They need direction. So we have now, we have this beautiful thing starting. Like this, I was trying to think, out of the 10 that we've won out of the last 11 seasons, where does this rank? And fuck, it's right up there, lads. It's right up there. It's in my top 3. Genuinely. Because I didn't expect it. I did not expect this season, and it's such a tribute to the man.
It's also our top 3 in terms of points.
Yeah.
So I mean, just on the points matrix itself, it's the top 3. But everything else we've just discussed for the last 10 minutes, in many ways, gives it more balance, more weighting to it being higher up. But just another thing, maybe a question, Desi, maybe to start with you is, if you also look at the signings.
Right, Hector, I'm going to come to that.
I've only got 45 minutes, mate.
Let me come to that, because I'm going to come to that.
This is Desi's agenda. I'll make it up as a goal.
We're going to come to that quickly. No, this to tie in with exactly what you guys were saying, i.e. the culture. But let's not forget, and I'm not going to dwell on this, but Monty, you've mentioned it quite a lot in our chats in recent pods. Let's not forget that you're up against a Rangers team that have qualified for a Europa League final. I mean, and they've not qualified for a Europa League final because they've ignored the league. I mean, they're a strong enough team to get to that level of competition, and we have managed to. And I'm not a great one for saying how many points you lost the league. I believe the league's lost when you're mathematically you can't win, you can't catch them, so to speak. So you could be 4 or 5 games, and that's it, and then you throw away another 15 points. But we have managed to come right back and win this league against a very strong opposition. They're not a team in transition. They're not a team that suffered. They're a team who even got Aaron Ramsey, I could remember. So I think that should just be remembered. But then we'll come. I want to highlight. I'm going to come to you first, Hector. Right? I want to just highlight a few key aspects of this season. And you mentioned the staff having to put up with a lot of possible hassle and having to carry the burden of last season. What about Callum McGregor? The season that guy's had.
You know, we sometimes use too many superlatives, just the way things are nowadays. I think in his case, it's the exception. But he's been, in my opinion, he's been our best player for technical player in terms of awareness, reading a game, short passes, long passes, can play 6, can play 8, can play 10. He's in my opinion, been our best player. However, this season, rather than getting given the captain's armband and sometimes that weight of expectation can weigh too heavy in really talented players, he's embraced it. And I actually think it's pushed him on a level. Because so often this season, and we'll probably talk more about this in you know, at the end of the season podcast or planning for next season, but so often this season, he's carried the midfield, I feel, as if almost single-handedly at times. Mm-hmm. Some of the guys have done really well, a lot of the new guys have come in. Too often they've flitted in and out of games, but he's been the one constant. His consistent level of performance has been so high for us this season, particularly domestically, that in terms of player of the year, by a million miles, Carter Vickers has been great, Jota's been great, Joe Hart's been great, others have been great. Callum McGregor is just off the charts, and he's been. And by the way, and there's probably more to come with better players around about him in the next 2 or 3 seasons. There you go.
Yeah, that's fine. So that's my first one. Next one on my list for you, Monty. What a performance. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
That's fine. In case this is stalling. What a performance by Dom Mackay. Surely the player of the season.
I seen the rewriting and the airbrushing of history when Mark Lowell joined the club start on the official and semi-official channels that actually it was Mark's dad. It was all to do with Mark's dad.
Yeah, he's getting quite a lot of plugging. Peter, when the call came from Peter, I've seen that quite often.
All you can be guaranteed, all that is smoothing the way for Peter to take the chairman's role and Bankier gets fucked off.
Yeah.
No negativity tonight.
No.
Desi always takes us a negative road. Not tonight.
That's something for next season. That's something
for next week.
Hold on. Right, Monty, as someone who has scored at Celtic Park, you have mentioned that a few times.
Goal every 2 games.
What? But Danny McGrain's still recovering from the shock of you scoring, Hector.
I think he is, actually.
So, Eddie, hold on. You're the only person that's not scored a goal at Celtic.
No, I'm the only person that actually turned up to support both of you, if you remember. So I was your only pal, so don't go forgetting that.
Danny actually popped me aside and said, listen, I can't say this in front of the rest of the guys, but you could have made it as a pro.
You could have made it.
you could have been a kit man. Right, Monty.
He said that to me too after he asked me to sign his shirt.
He said it to me and I wasn't even playing.
Aye.
Right, now Monty, let's talk about the impact of Kyogo. Have you seen a player make such an immediate impact? Because again, on the early podcast we said, I remember I was being asked, do you think we'll get any chance? And I said, well obviously this new superstar signing has to hit the ground running. And by God, he didn't half hit the ground running.
We've had, I would argue, the two, Kyogo exceptional, and I don't want to deviate off we will talk about other players and their contributions, but when he got injured, we had a huge gap, and Giakoumakis had not got any fitness at that point. Kyogo and Maeda, those two signings, I believe, are the difference. But specifically to your question, I didn't expect him to do that. You know, the whole running joke about his size and his frame, and he's not going to do much, and he just exploded onto the scene. But he seems to be also the type of character, we go back to that, the type of player that seems to have that infectious personality in a dressing room. They all seem to like each other. You watch their body language and how they interact with each other. And when he was injured, all those wee small subtle things that they do, which comes from Japanese culture as well, all that, the modesty and being grateful, supporting, cheering on your teammates, that creates this incredible sort of dynamic. But I think there's more to come from him. I'd love to see him play up front as part of it too. Him and Giakoumakis, I think if they could forge a partnership, you're looking at, that sort of dynamic that we had when you had Sutton, Hartson and Larson sort of rotating around each other. He's such a fucking clever footballer. But I'll tell you what, controversial maybe, I'd start Giakoumakis ahead of him.
Okay, we'll move on. Let's not start any fights. We're not going to fight tonight. But I've already got some sad news at the end, but we'll come to that in a second. But Hector, you touched on, interestingly, the Hearts game, right? And we've got Big Suter popping up at the end. We're back to, there's good old Celtic letting goals in from set pieces and losing the game, etc. We don't really see the light at the end of the tunnel. But then comes the last signing day, the last day of the signing window, and we bring in Carter Vickers, Jota, and Giakoumakis. What a final day. Usually we just have a Hail Mary, hope for the best.
Yeah.
But what a three signings they turned out to be.
I think Carter Vickers was like 10 minutes to midnight or something. Yep. Ridiculous, wasn't it?
He's still waiting in Bournemouth, I think.
Aye. It's actually unusual for that to happen. As we know we've got the experience, right? Because one thing Law always did was wait until the very last minute to get some sort of loan deal over the line. To get 3 players in, 2 loans, right? To be so impactful in our season, all very different positions, to the spine of the team, and one that creative kind of wide player. Carter Vickers has been rock solid, absolutely rock. You can actually count in one hand misplaced passes for him this season. Genuinely, I'm struggling to think, and that's for a guy who I don't think that's his strength. I think his strength is his strength, isn't it? Yeah. It's his physique, it's his power, he's good pace. He's just a proper defender, if that makes sense. Yeah, who can play a bit. Jota we know about, box of tricks. Giakoumakis, I would actually say that Giakoumakis was the turning point after losing Kyogo St Stephen's Day, wasn't it? St Johnstone come back and
listen to you with your Saints references.
I can know that. I'm in a hell of a good mood tonight. But you think about, because Giakoumakis had a couple of injuries, and a new player coming in missed a penalty, last minute penalty against Livingston. Mm-hmm. That kind of knocked a lot of players. But I read up, it was probably mainstream, it was reported, but over the winter break he didn't take a break. Yeah. He stayed to work his fitness, and that demonstrates the character of a man, of a player for me. When the cards were stacked against me, we went, no, fuck that. I'm going to prove myself, I'm going to get as fit as I can, and it worked a treat, because his record since the restart, it must be the best record in the league.
And all one-touch goals, by the way. Every single goal at one-touch goal.
I think it was his first 10 or something. I think he has I think he has amazingly taken 2 touches, so at least one of the goals.
But
a letdown, Monty, a letdown.
The game tonight again just demonstrates, right, a ball dinked up and he just overpowered a Clutie header roof and net. He came on late in the game, the weekend, cracking right foot finish. But the 2 games against Rangers, that ultimately the ones that have won the league, you think about it, right, they're the 2 that's won the league for us. The 3-0 game, he didn't score, but he bullied Goldson and Bass. He bullied them out the game. And I remember that we spoke about it and saying, yeah, it was great, first half was magic. Don't underestimate what he did to their defence that night. He battered them pillar to post. Then to go to Ibrox after he'd said we were the best team. Remember the media, the big furor over it. We're the best team. We're going to win the league this year. You think, Christ, here we go.
He upset Ryan Jack, remember?
Well, and you're right, Desi, because the pre-match media conference, I think it was Jack the day before, was pretty much saying it. And it directly said we're going to target. And they did. They targeted him. He stood up to them. They were in his face. He got booked. And there's one really good photo. I think Jack was on the ground and sort of, I think, grabbed his face or something.
Yeah, he pushed his hand down and pushed his face into the ground.
And Jack Marcus had been booked at that point. And the easy thing for him to do was to swipe out and take a second yellow. But he got up, he went head to head with them. And I think there's 3 Rangers players there. And he just looked at them all. And I thought, oh, big man, you've got their number. And actually, the cup semi-final, he was injured. And for me, that was probably the biggest miss of that game. I think he was playing, I think we'd have beat them. So he, for me, was the deciding factor of the second. Maeda, big kudos to him, but I think Giakoumakis, goals win games. Giakoumakis, phenomenal.
Yeah, it's quite stunning, the actual impact at the site. Again, we come up to January. We've not been losing games, so to speak, but you couldn't imagine the 30 game unbeaten run at that point. You're still going, okay, we're keeping in there, we're doing alright. If we can just keep it up, and then suddenly the January window is looming and we're getting told we're signing players when the window opens. Not when it closes, but when the actual window opens. But then it's like 3 guys from Japan whose season had just finished, remember? And Matt O'Reilly turns up. And again, Ideguchi, he was unlucky to get injured. Who was that we were playing again? Was it Alloa?
Alloa, yeah.
Was it Alloa? I remember that he get the kind of rough treatment there. So that was a bit of a liberty for him. But Hatate, I mean, like that Hearts game is just, I mean, like, to actually turn up, this wee guy again getting the whole slagging about, well, can he cut it? Is he a left back? Remember that was the whole point. The media were trying to portray as if he was signed as a backup left back, and all the analysts, to be fair to him, kept saying he's not a left back, he's a footballer who can play anywhere. And then he turns up against Hearts, and our good old friend Craig Gordon just watches that ball fly right by him. I watched that goal the other night, and I can't remember if it's saying Giakoumakis or whoever it is. The centre forward's like waiting for the through pass. No, that way. I'm clear, play me in. And Hatate's like, no, you're alright, I'm just going to hit this. And then you had the Rangers game, which will kind of accompany. But again, the impact he had, I know he kind of wavered, but considering the season, the guys have had, Maeda did runs and runs, and then Matt O'Reilly has been Tom Rodgick 2.0, and Turnbull been injured. So it's been amazing, the impact, and the slotting in the actual stuff. We've not had to adjust the team, if you know what I mean. We've not had to kind of make wholesale changes to the formation. It's a case of, you will play in this, and this is the way this team will play. But let's remember the performance this year, Hector. Tony Ralston. Did you see that coming in any shape or form? Anyway, like even his previous, for a player to be so suited, and I'm not his biggest fan, as you know, but for what a season that guy's had under Ange's system.
Tonight
he's never shown any form like that.
Tonight again, he sets up the goal and has a fantastic goal-saving challenge after they hit the post. Yep. But funny enough, I was just smiling there as you mentioned that. You know how you get some mental folk on Twitter, right? And they are, right? And they dig out tweets for like 4 years ago. And they'll go, look at that, fucking, you said that 4 years ago, right? The reason I'm smiling is about, was it last summer? And we'd just given Ralston, was it a 1 year extension?
Yeah.
And we're all kind of thinking, what are we doing that for? Obviously to buy a bit of time for Ange. And somebody dug out a tweet, and it was like, and I'd put something out saying, Ralston, future Scotland player, right back, not quite at Tierney level, but cracking player back in 2017, right? Mm-hmm. And it was like, I get slaughtered for it. Now I'm thinking, hey, told you. No, but listen, joking aside, he's been great, hasn't he? It's also, he's one of those guys, what is it, the Celtic fans kind of jokingly call him, was it Tony the Builder?
Aye. Bobby Builder. Yep.
But he is like that, isn't he? He's just a grafter who just gets the best out of his ability, and he's been a great success. And what he's done is he's nailed on he's part of the squad next season.
Yeah, exactly.
Absolutely nailed on. I think that's important. You need guys like that in the squad, don't you?
Exactly.
Would you take him? Would you put him in the Scotland squad if you make it to the World Cup?
Don't care.
No, so where's he going to play? Right back? He's not going to displace. I mean, who's that? No, he's not going to place Nathan Patterson or whatever his name is. That wonder boy for Everton. He's never going to displace him. And is it Calvin Ramsey, the boy for Aberdeen? Sure, I think he's a stick on to be the next Andrew Robertson kind of thing.
He's a good player.
Again, we'll forget about him. We're not caring about him, right? No. But it's just, I just think it's worth saluting Ralston. This may be his one and only greatest ever season, but fair play to the guy because he really grabbed that chance. He grabbed that chance. A few of them had a wee chance and he really grabbed at it. Circumstances came his way. Greg Taylor, I think, is just an underrated hero again of the season. Juranovic came in and everybody went, oh, that guy's a Rolls Royce of a player. Greg Taylor's your Austin Maestro in comparison to the way people are talking. But you watch that guy, got him down the pit. He's like another Paul Telfer. He just does what he's told. He gets out there and makes play available for people like your Jotters and your Abaders and your. He makes things happen.
I would say he deserved a lot of criticism earlier on in the season and previously. I would say the turning point for him was the 3-0 game against Rangers.
Yeah. And
I think we discussed that. And it was the second half performance when we were coasting at 3-0. We kind of stepped back a bit. I thought defensively, he's by a distance the best game. I think we commented, he's demonstrated he can play to that level. He's done it. There's now no excuse for dropping way below like from an 8 to a 4 and lacking confidence. You've got to push on from that. And I think in particular the last 6-7 weeks, and again tonight, he's hit a level that many of us, myself included, didn't think he would hit. So fair play to him. Just keep it going. Keep it going. You've been excellent. Just keep it going.
How old is Taylor? 23?
Still young.
Yeah. Ralston's the same. Desi, check that. I'm just curious.
I can look it up.
Because Desi, what I think helps Taylor is Ange's system.
Exactly.
The fullbacks tend to bomb overlap and use their pace to try and get outside the opposition player. His is more about the inside type of fullback that helps.
That's something that I've been watching the last few matches. We seem to be doing less of that. Certainly since the split. That we seem to be looking for that wee bit more width out of the fullback. It's just a subtle thing. If you watch it, when we were steamrolling in that unbelievable run that we had up to the 3-0 game, there was a huge amount of interplay, sort of movement between fullback and midfield. And if you remember the chance that in the 3-0 game, I think it was Harfield or somebody like that, ran off Hattati.
Yeah, that'd be football.
And that happened a couple of times where there was a run off Hattati and there was no cover. And we seem to be just now that wee bit wider. And even if you look tonight, Ralston by and large is close to the touchline, so's Taylor. They're not in as much now. And I don't know whether that's a coach thing or just a subtle thing or a subconscious thing.
Taylor's 24.
24? Yeah.
24, right. So I'll come to you, Monty. Previously I talked about, I thought one season our biggest signing was Fraser Foster. What sort of impact do you think the Mr. Professional Joe Hart has had this year? The man who said recently, Ange has made this old donkey feel like a young kid again. He's been rejuvenated by the Ange ball.
I think there is no, you can't, I don't think you can quantify it. We had such a poor recruitment or just a complete mismatch with Barkas. I mean, he can't be that bad a goalkeeper that, he'd go for 5 million. It just did not work for him here. Bean is a good backup, but Bean is as good, that's all he'd be, I think, a good backup, and that's it. So you have this huge gap. I keep going back to last year or the year before why we didn't bring Davy Marshall back, because I see he's been tipped to go to Hibs. But someone with that experience, with that standing in the game, especially for younger players in their early 20s, who were kids watching Joe Hart, play for Man City and play for England in World Cups. I think he's been exceptional. I put him on a par, Desi, the year you called it when Forster came back 2 years ago. I think he's been every bit as influential. Absolutely outstanding, Simon. And we'll get another 2 or 3 years out of him.
Hector hinted at earlier when Ralston saved that clear goal opportunity. Like, I thought, to be honest, I thought Hart was moving in slow motion to Tony Watt's header, but when you see the header again, the replay, it's a cracking header, just hits the post. But when Ralston makes that save, it's when Joe Hart starts like saluting him by punching him in the chest. I'm going, when's that gift going to come up? I was raging, I was watching it on a stream that I couldn't rewind it just to record it, because I went that. But it was like the two of them are so excited to have saved a goal. I mean, it's like the old Johan Mjalby days, not like the big Aya used to be the same. Right, Hector, I'm going to give you a choice now, right? Are you wanting B? Do you want to talk about B or do you want to talk about C?
Now remember, I'm going to keep this positive.
That's right. It's all positive.
So I complete the fifth if you ask me a question.
It's all positive. Do you want to talk about B or do you want to talk about C?
Well, C for Celtic.
Okay, C for Carol Starfeld.
Give me B. What's B?
B was the departure of Near Beaton, your favourite player.
No yet.
He put it on Instagram, mate, it's done.
Oh, no. He's got to get his testimonial in 2 years.
Oh, 9 years. Poor James Forrest still hasn't his one. That's my personal annoyance, that poor guy.
Start a campaign.
Save James Forrest testimonial fund.
Get the big banner there on the south stand with your Tartan Shaw on Saturday. Get it up.
Right, bring me back. Like, we could go through every member of the team, and God bless every one of them for this season. But the contribution for the actual, it's been a truly team effort. It's not as if we've had one player like your lad scoring 50 goals, and it's been like your Turnbull and Abada led the way, started the season. Jota started suddenly coming up with all these assists and goals. Kyogo, Maeda comes in and helps pick up work. Giakoumakis, as you say. Roderick even stepping in when needed. Den O'Reilly steps in to kind of rejuvenate the Roderick kind of role. McGregor constantly there, keep us going. Carter Vickers at the back, just keeping everything steady. Starfelt, to be fair to him, like you look at Celtic, I think the night was the first time we conceded after 70 minutes since that Hearts game, the first game of the season. I mean, that's like, so there was lessons getting learnt over that pitch. But let's, as you say, Hector, let's stick to the positive. Let's go for the highlights, right? Your personal highlights. I'll start with you, Monty. What was your favourite goal of the season?
Yeah, Hattari at Hearts, just because it's a total thunderfuck of a strike. It's just, that ball, I talk about it regularly, that ball was still picking up pace as it hit the net. That thing was just getting faster and faster. I don't think anyone this season has hit a ball cleaner than Hattari hit that at Tynecastle.
Do you think if he hit it on a Ryan Christie style trajectory, it may have reached Saturn or one of the outer planets, maybe by now?
There's a fair chance it would have landed in the docks in Belfast. Absolutely. So no, it just immediately comes to mind. It's just the fucking absolute thunderstrike. And we haven't had a guy who can hit a ball from distance, 30 yards. Who's the last guy you can think of in Celtic's midfield?
Near Beaton.
No, on target. On target.
You never said that.
Again, thing, mate, David Turnbull and Tom Roderick can always pull one out the bag at least once a season. Turnbull did score a cracker this season, I think, against Motherwell. Hector, what about you? What's your favourite personal goal this year?
For the importance of it at the time was Ralston's header away to Ross County. Mm-hmm. 97 minutes, was it? Because if we didn't win that game, I think there's a strong chance that we wouldn't have won the league this season. Because that I think that had to put us 8 points behind, maybe. That was vital. And it gave belief to everyone. And I was just thinking as you were asking that, a very close second would be Abada's at home at Dundee United.
Well, yeah. But I personally would, out of those two goals, I was thinking about this tonight, I would still say scoring a late one away from home with 10 men, remember Starfelt gets sent over at Ross County. And as you say, it kind of reinforced a bit of reinforced a bit of belief to have confidence in Ange ball. Because even then, we weren't all won over at that point. We were still hopeful. It wasn't a clear, this is going to work for sure. I mean, we were still hoping it was still going to work.
And you're right, and interestingly enough, Abada's goal against United, we also had 10 men at that point.
Yeah.
Beaton gets sent off about 20 minutes earlier.
So, of course they did.
Both games.
He was on the park.
Right, both games. So there you go. And the importance of 10 men winning, which for us, in our ilk, we kind of grew up with that old song, probably embellished it to bits, right? There's always 10 men win again was a song we sung years ago. And this season, it's the first I can remember, I don't know how long, but we've actually done it twice. So it was interesting.
Yeah. Me personally, I would go for Hatate's second goal against Rangers. The first goal was lovely, especially to see Rangers claim they should have stopped the game. So you all the excuses nonsense. But Hatate's second goal is a product of a beautiful Ange ball, inverted fullbacks, triangles, one-touch football, this perfect execution at Ange ball. And then to see Hatate, this wee guy facing up with a big defender and just hitting it right into the bottom corner. McGregor's no chance. And it like, I think at that point it was suddenly the realisation, and I know Barisic with Abada, remember he just sits in his ankles as if, I honestly think like the whole wind been right out of him at that point. That was the realisation of something's happened here. We are no longer going to win from a corner kick or a physical game. The physical game's not going to be enough for us to beat this mob. And finally, I thought that was the pivotal goal. And this wee guy just been so exuberant. That's what it takes. Just give me the ball and give me one.
That was a great goal.
And that was
a great goal. Can I mention a third one?
But yes, Carrie, you mention as many as you like.
Totally agree with everything you said there. It was a wonderful goal, that match. Took the stuff out of there. I would add, it all goes back to late goals that got us the 3 points. Was Jack Amaki's diving header against Dundee.
Yep.
Was it 2 minutes to go? It was
hat-trick.
His hat-trick goal. That was vital, because I think that gave us a wee cushion in the league. I think they had drawn or something. They had drawn maybe the day before. I can't quite remember. But then he obviously the celebration, he runs the top off into the corner. So that, another late goal that got us the 3 points. So I think that was a big goal this season.
Yeah, and that ties in with the we never stop mentality. Because again, that was, let's not forget, that at the start of the season, remember the so-called, I don't think it was leaked, I think it was officially released, the Ange video, and everybody's like getting excited. Oh, brilliant memory. But you had players like Odsonne Edouard getting saluted and that. When you think
well done, Odsonne! Well done, Odsonne!
Odsonne! And then try again.
Odsonne's lying sleeping down at the corner flag, isn't he?
Poor Stephen Welsh is the only guy. Stephen Welsh is the only guy that gets slagged in that whole video. You must try harder, Stephen. Everybody else is getting, well done, Callum. Great goal, Odsonne. It's a bloody liberty. But, okay, so best player. Who's your best player? So you've said Callum McGregor, Hector, and many a time, but, so anybody else you'd like to pick out that we've maybe no mentioned tonight?
Well, maybe no mentioned. I thought we can throw
but this somebody that is, even through the season, you've maybe had a wee thought to yourself, I have to remember that really made, like again, like, Jota's, who were playing the other week and Jota swung the Kyogo scored the header. Who were playing recently?
Ross County.
Who?
Ross County.
Ross County, I mean, but Jota swinging the cross in. No, it was like, inside the pitch, it wasn't like outside, he'd beat a man and turned and swung, and he was actually like 20 yards in, and I thought, I'm like myself, that's the sort of key moments in game, like just a wee second and it totally turned the whole game. But it was anything like that you can kind of remember from a player perspective. Again, you can go for near Beaton, coming on and calming everyone down and only getting booked after 9 minutes instead of the usual.
Well, I think Beaton, Ange, joking aside, Ange being the first of our last, 4 managers who worked out that Beaton is not a centre-half. Mm-hmm. And Beaton was never a centre-half. He's always been a mid. And actually, he used him as a good squad player to come on at 6. That's a wee subtle thing that he picked up on that others didn't. And it's just like, why did they not see the obvious that we all seen? You discussed everything else, Desi. I think the contribution was widespread. Juranovic, I think's a terrific signing. I think we'll struggle to hold on to him. We'll keep it positive. He's a terrific signing. And I think he'll just get better
If we got to his penalty.
He's infectious as well, isn't he?
If we got to his penalty. Fireball, remember that Panenka?
Oh.
The Zidane style Panenka.
He was away in the Europa League, wasn't it?
Betis.
Aye. So I think everybody's contributed. That's the beauty of it. And I'm trying to think too far ahead to next season, I suppose. But I just think Ange's got his ideas in now. We've now Champions League qualifications sorted. We've now got an extended proper break. And a proper pre-season where the conditioning work, he's got weeks and weeks to work with his coaching staff. Ange will probably bring in one or two, I'd imagine, over the summer as well, just to help. And it should mean we're sharper, we're quicker, we're faster. And maybe didn't get a chance to do that as much, get the foundations laid as much because of how short a break it was last summer. So hopefully we're just going to improve. And also, he's made it clear, he's not going to bring in 7, 8, 9 players. I think 3 or 4 first team players this summer. That's exciting. That's great news, and I hope that happens.
Yeah.
Who would you shift out?
We'll come to that in a second, Monty. Let's stick with the kind of retrospective ideas. So what would be your best player? I'll come back to that in a second. What you're just talking about. What would your favourite player or favourite kind of? What was your feel good factor this year?
It's the first time we've looked solid in defence, but I think that's as much to do with the system as it is the personnel. But Carter Vickers for me has just been top of the tree. McGregor is McGregor. That's a level that most of them can't get to. But I think Carter Vickers. I know that you don't tend to go for the big sort of strop and defender type thing, but he's been such a rock that we've built everything around. I want to keep it fully positive retrospectively. I watched the game tonight, and it's been easy for us to take the foot off the pedal since Ibrox. I think the game against Hearts last weekend, even if you look at the way the fixtures were, you had Ibrox, then Ross County, then them again. You know, it was laid out. I think someone pointed out on Twitter. It's laid out for maximum tension. You know, if we could drop points. The fact, didn't we kick off 15 minutes before them tonight as well? These silly things. And I watched it going, there's a huge learning here for that entire group of players. They've won a championship now. Where the fear in me would be for all of those stellar performers that we have, if we lost one of them. So if Carter Vickers didn't sign, or if Jota didn't sign, you know, we've got a gap that we have to go and fill. But based on the recruitment, Jesus, he's done a brilliant job. So for me, Carter Vickers, from a standout point of view, Hart is right beside him on that. It's so difficult to pick. Outside of that, you know, everyone's just contributed. It's so hard to pinpoint one person.
No, that's interesting, because I was thinking about this the other day, but like, again, I'm not overly confident that Carter Vickers and Jota will sign. If they do, God bless, that would be fantastic. Maybe they'd announce it on Saturday and send us all heading into the summer absolutely skipping in the Celtic way. But then I thought to myself, well, we managed to bring the guys in already, and it worked out well. We've not actually brought in that. Maybe the law of averages mean we will have to bring in a few that won't work, but you can look at James McCarthy and maybe suggest that's not work. But I'm hopeful we could find another Carter Vickers and another Jota. No, that way I've got that optimism in. And again, Mr. Lawwell, young Mr. Lawwell may also, of course, come in with his big contact book as head of recruitment. So that may work.
But I think you know, we laugh and joke about, and then obviously there's cries of nepotism and all that. Of course, it's an obvious thing to point at, but if people were just to look at Wall Junior's records and who he's been working with as part of the Man City group over the last number of years, I think it stands up to its own scrutiny fairly well independently. So I think the fact he's worked with Ange came out and was talking about big style, having worked with him before, I see that as a positive, a big positive. Yeah.
Yep. So we're going to come to saluting the key man of the season, right? The best signing of the season clearly was Ange. And Hector, I know you've been a massive fan of Ange the man through the season.
Brilliant.
But off the top of your head, I'm just going to put you in the spot. We've not rehearsed this or anything. Can you think of what your favourite Ange moment or your favourite quote or whatever you've kind of heard through the season from Ange, or this anything in general?
Yeah, but unfortunately, I can't remember what you said word for word. It was was after we beat them 3-0 at Celtic Park, and it was to do with fans having missed last season, not being to the games and being the lifeblood of the game. And again, I can't remember the exact quote, but it's along the lines of the fans being able to be happy, giving the fans some happiness, but saying it in a way that obviously I can't replicate. He's got away with words that's, you know what, and I hate to say this because he's nothing like the guy so far. Rodgers had away with words, right?
Yeah.
And we all bought into it. I just feel with Ange, it's different. It's just different. He talks.
A wee bit more authentic.
Aye.
It's a wee bit more authentic.
A big bit more authentic, aye. And I just hope those words don't come back to haunt us. But that's what you feel with the man. But we beat Rangers, and he came out with a couple of wonderful lines about the fans, about giving them happiness. You know, they work hard sometimes.
Yeah.
They don't have a
Along
lot
the lines of they come in here and they could have had they could have be having a shitty time in their life. Yeah. It's a kind of really shitty time with the whole lockdown and all that sort of stuff, wouldn't it? Or kind of still COVID, and it's up to us to kind of lift them.
Yeah.
So what about you, Monty? Can anything new that springs to mind to you? I know Hector really loved the fact that he was talking about how his dad, I mean, the whole kind of immigrant and making something of yourself and people going about you and improving everyone's life. But again, just the way he carries himself. But anything that springs to mind for you?
I just love we talked about it on a few of the podcasts, and we've had a wee bit of a joke with it on the WhatsApp group, that when we play this very open style of football, we're going to get cuffed in Europe now and again. Could even get cuffed at home now and again. And it was this notion, I know Hector was doing his nut around being pragmatic. He has to change the system. And it was...
I've gave up, Monty. I've gave up.
If you're hungry and you're a vegetarian, you don't nip into Mickey D's for a burger just because you're hungry. I think just little analogies like that, and I probably should watch his press conferences a wee bit more, just to see, he does seem to have the measure of them, but everything you both said, he comes across as it sounds like we come across a guy who just fits, and everything about the club fits his values and his style and his culture, and long may it continue. But you're right, Hector, too. People will come and see what he's done. People with much deeper pockets. But he doesn't strike you as the type of guy who leg it for money, or mid-table prestige in England. I think he's the type of guy who would want another club with similar values. You know the way Klopp is at Liverpool? Aye. Klopp is very socialist, left-leaning. He found a home. We could have the same with Ange here, but like all things, it's a results business. But we've nothing. I don't think we've anything to fear going into next season based on what we've done and won. So no, I love that little analogy. I love the way he throws those out, Desi. Very, very.
Desi, I found these quotes there. I just had a wee quick look. So it was after we beat Rangers 3-0 at Celtic Park. After the game, and it was on Radio Scotland, so it wasn't the wider media conference. And he said, we're upholding the values of this football club, not just in terms of winning, but the way we play our football. I want them, the supporters, to be proud of us. I hope they are proud on the journey home tonight. I am sure they will enjoy tonight. I don't know how work will go tomorrow for most of them. As I said to the players, we had 60,000 in here tonight, and I'm sure a lot of them walked in with some problems in their life. For this 95 minutes, we made them forget that and feel good. And that's something special.
Yes, indeed. I'm just on the wonderful Celtic wiki here, and they've actually got a Ange Postecoglou quotes page, right? Let me just see. How's this for prophecy? Vince Ruggieri, Asturian SMH paper. Apologies if I pronounced that incorrect. Your surname there, Vince. Ange Postecoglou will be either probably the best manager in Celtic history, or will turf him out after 3 months. Literally no in between. Right? And then we'll move down. So that's Australian press. Let's move down to the Scottish press, where of course we'll get people, or the Scottish media, we'll get people like, at the very least we now know what the Ange and Ange Postecoglou stands for. Absolutely not good enough. and that was Hugh Keevins in August 2021. God bless him. But again, I think the most repeated quote from the Scottish media or the media in Scotland has been this one. Ange Postecoglou has no authority at Celtic, no backing, no support from the board, and virtually no chance of being successful. Right now, if I was him, I'd pack my bags and go. Postecoglou might as well hand in his resignation and take himself back to Australia. That was our old beloved friend, Sky Sports analyst and former Rangers player, Chris Boyd, in his newspaper column, August 2021. So there you go. So that just shows you how much he knows about football and about the modern game. So that's your answer. So again, I've got here my final topic just to wrap up. So we've won the league, the Champions League secured. We don't care about what anybody else does. It's looking good. The future's bright. The future's green. Recruitment, as you say, Hector, it's looking good. We've already got ahead of recruitment in now, so obviously he'll be looking to get at. We're already talking about buying Hammarby's at Hammarby's left back.
Yeah.
Diaz, so thinking about that could be quite interesting. An Iraqi player, he's very highly talked of, and 5'10", so quite tall. So I actually thought that would be quite good for if we can't beat the front press, we just do the old chip to Lustig manoeuvre, then head it down to Callum McGregor. But one thing I'm looking forward to, he's taken a bit of abuse recently, and it's Hatate. And I think he gets a rest over the summer, then comes back rejuvenated. And it's his speed of pass and one touch. See if it is. Monty, you've always keep repeating that the legacy of Ange's teams are second season even better.
Even better.
So
yeah.
are you looking forward to that?
I think we'll fill the first team starting 11 with more players of that ilk. He talks about Maeda's recovery and speed being at elite levels. I think you're absolutely right with Hatate. Give him a rest. I'd near put money on Hatate being player of the season next year without even seeing him in pre-season if he can stay injury free. He just has everything. He's all those attributes. And you imagine a midfield that has more energy, more speed, more touch and more awareness built around Colin McGregor at 6. Fucking hell. Or would you play McGregor further up and put, Ideguchi Ideguchi was the one out of the 4 who had experience in Europe before. He just got that shit booting up at Alloa with Ferguson's team. You could already have him there, but I think we're going to see a much more fluid, faster, and hopefully a bit more effective too. When you look at that front third, with maybe interchange and stuff. But Jesus, fucking so exciting.
Yeah. So and Hector, this is before we get. I meant to highlight there. This is you were reading out your quote. I meant to highlight. Would the word of the season be other than C for champion? Would the word be M for mate? As in Ange's response. And I'm just looking, I think this is the one that really started the media cynicism. Remember this when we were playing Hearts, that game, as we talked about, that Hearts game we lost, when Ange was getting asked about, did they actually know about Hearts and Tynecastle? And Ange, July 2021, I'm still on the same planet, mate. I haven't come from outer space. You'd be surprised how much I know about Hearts. I mean...
I'd just echo Monty's comments. I think the current squad, there's scope for quite a bit of improvement because a lot of young players that are guys and they're kind of getting towards like 23, 24, 25. So there's lots of scope for improvement. I hope we sign, obviously, Jota and Carter-Vickers. Let's nail them down and get them signed. Fingers crossed that'd be good. Other positions, Ange, was an interview again with Ange, and he was asked about recruitment, blah, blah, blah. And he's been manager of certain clubs, including when he was Australia manager. And he made a comment that he doesn't get too close to players. Doesn't get too close. Like Lenny and Scott Brown were tight, and Rodgers to a degree.
And he also mentioned the dressing room is a players' area.
Aye. And that's part of not getting too close with them. And the reason for that, he said, because basically I've got to keep improving the team and the squad. If you get too close to players, you get a personal, and obviously it's human nature, a personal attachment. So when he said that was really interesting. So there's a bit of a ruthless streak within him, which I think you need to be a successful manager, right? So what I'm trying to say around about way, I think based on that, he'll try and get Carter Vickers and Jota. Looks like we could try to get a left back in to compete and ideally push on there. Another centre back to partner Carter Vickers. In my view, I think we need a winger, a right winger with pace. I think Forrest's time, like all good things, has probably come to its natural end. He's been a great servant, but I think we can see the dip in him. No criticism. He's been great, but it's just life. Things move on. And I would love these, they don't just, appear overnight, but I'd love like a six.
Yep.
A dominant physical six that can play football, that frees up McGregor and whoever's partner McGregor further up the pitch. I'd love that.
Mm-hmm. Well, again, I think that I can say with confidence that we have confidence that whoever we bring in will be part of Ange's plan. See, I don't think we're going into this summer going, please God, let us actually hopefully land one or two that will help us. You know what I mean? Yeah. I think we're just looking to reinforce. I think there could be quite a bit of the old kill your darlings. I could see Ange being ruthless, as you mentioned, Hector, being not too close, being literally, you've had a great season, mate. Thanks very much. Remember Livingston a few years ago? I think under Paul Lambert get promoted, then get rid of the whole team when they came up into the Premier League, because basically it was a case of, you're good enough to get us to this level, but we knew we wanted to go into the next level, so it's time for you to move on, and you just have to be ruthless. And I can see Ange being ruthless when it needs to be, because he knows everything's on his shoulders. So, but we've got every confidence in him. So tonight is a night for celebrating. It's also a night to say thank you for everyone for listening, especially throughout this season. All the comments and all the likes, etc., very much appreciated. We can all look forward to Saturday now, the party at Celtic Park. Hector, I'll look up for you and the gods from my prawn sandwich based main stand. Yeah. See, hopefully you can see the pitch from away up there. I'm not sure what it must be like. But it'd be nice
if you guys could sing a song now and again.
No. You're lucky I don't sit in my hands anymore. I actually give you a clap every now and again for you.
And mind your flask if you get a flask.
My tartan rug. I've got a new green tartan rug to wear. And Monty, will you be watching on TV? Will you be watching the parties on TV?
I might take. Funny, I was thinking of maybe nipping over for it, and just doing an over and back. But I think I'll go into town, go to the Celtic Club, maybe get a beer, watch it in there. It's just another one of those wee milestone things too. Like, we've won 10 out of 11. That's just fucking phenomenal. Last year was probably the first real challenge that an entire generation of, Celtic fans in their sort of mid-teens upwards have had. What the fuck's this? We have a challenger now too. So, it'll be nice. But I think this one's just going to feel a wee bit sweeter and a bit warmer. Just because none of us, if we're really honest, didn't expect it at the start of the year, Desi. So I think I'll go up to the club, get a couple of beer, enjoy the game, and just have a nice chilled weekend. So envious of you guys at Celtic Park, but we'll watch it on the big screen, the Celtic.
Excellent. So that's that. It's official, folks. We've now won our 10th title out of 11 seasons. God bless. So hopefully everyone goes out there and enjoys it, especially at the weekend. And then we can all look forward to next season. I'm just going to leave. Before I leave us with the words of Ange himself, I'll just like to say thank you and congratulations to Champion Hector Bandido and Monty Champion Burns for joining me tonight. Thank you, guys.
Thanks, Desi.
Thanks, Desi. Appreciate it.
Enjoy the hangovers if and when they ever come, when you stop celebrating. And we'll just leave you with Ange's words from tonight.
Yeah, pretty special, mate. Probably the first time this year I've lost for words. Just an enormous effort, really proud of the players, the staff, our supporters, everyone involved. No one gave us much of a chance at the start of the year, and to do what they've done this year and achieve the ultimate is an unbelievable effort.
It's just when it really hits home when you see what it means to the fans.
It's massive, mate. Fans had a tough year last year, not just the fact that we didn't win anything, but they couldn't do this. They couldn't come and support their team. And they've been right behind us from day one, and I couldn't be happier, but I was just really proud of this group of players and the staff. They've been unbelievable for me this year.
You said after Livingston in September you would have to have a near perfect season. You've been unbeaten in 31 games since then. What does that say about this team?
Yeah, look, I mean, I think our football's been outstanding, but the character this team's shown to get through the last 31 games and rise to every challenge. And as I said, I couldn't be more prouder of them.
What did you make of this evening?
Oh, it was a bit nervy. It's only natural. These guys have had their head down and just so narrow-minded about being successful that, you get so close, there's going to be a bit of nerves there, but we got the job done.
Many congratulations, well done.